The word. Isaiah 55 verse 10 and 11. For as the rain comes down and the snow from heaven, and does not return there, but waters the earth, and makes it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goes forth out of my mouth. It shall not return to me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing for which I sent it. Isaiah compares the word of God to water. He compares the word of God to rain. In other words, he compares the movement of the word of God to water cycle. So the word of God, as it is compared to water cycle, we will look at how water cycle itself. The word of God comes direct from the mouth of God. It comes into the temple, into the sanctuary, into the house of God, where people of God are. Then it flows into our bodies, into our system, into our bones, into our marrows, into our spirit and soul. Then it flows into rivers of life. It also goes back into the dams, lakes, swamps, seas, and oceans. When it reaches the ocean, it is healed. Therefore, that's why Isaiah compares the word, the movement of the word of God to water cycle. Let's look at water cycle. The cycle starts when water on the surface of the earth evaporates. Water collects as water vapor in the sky. Water in the clouds gets cold. Water falls from the sky as rain, snow, sleet, or hail. Water sinks into the surface. Some flow into streams and some into rivers, and then collects into swamps, dams, lakes, seas, and oceans. So that's the water cycle that Isaiah compares to the movement of the word of God. So the word of God only comes down to do its assignment. It comes direct from the mouth of God to do its assignment that is assigned by God, to give seed to the sower and also bread to the eater. It will therefore return to God only if it has accomplished its assignment. So that's how the water cycle moves compared to the movement of the word of God. We will look at a few scriptures as we go. Let's look at John 6 verse 63. It is the spirit that quickens. The flesh profits nothing. The words that I speak to you are spirit and they are life. This is the reason why Isaiah compares the water cycle to the movement of the word of God. It is spirit. Jesus tells his disciples that the words that I speak are spirit, so they move. They are spirit, they flow. As water completes its cycle, so the word of God completes its cycle. We will look at 1 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 7. But the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit with. So the Spirit that we are given, the Word of God that we are given, is for us to profit with, is for our advantage. It only comes for a purpose. It has to accomplish the assignment that is given to it by God. We remember the rain comes to give seed to the sower. It also comes to give bread to the eater. So is the word of God. It comes to give seed to the sower. Also, the word of God comes to give bread to the eater. So, unless and until it accomplishes its assignment, it won't return back to God. It will stay. The word of God won't complete its cycle until it accomplishes. So the quicker you allow the word of God to flow in your system, the quicker you allow the word of God to flow in your body, into your marrows, into your spirit and soul, into your intents of heart, the quicker it completes its cycle. So let's look at Ezekiel 47. Ezekiel 47. Before we get there, let's look at Hebrews chapter 4 verse 12. For the word of God is quick and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit, and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of heart. So look at how quick, how powerful, how sharp the word of God is. It pierces even to the dividing asunder of the soul and the spirit. It also pierces and gets into our bones and marrow. It also pierces and discerns the intents, our thoughts, the intents of heart. So the word of God is very quick, very powerful compared to the cycle of water. So that's how the word of God is supposed to move in our system. So make sure you don't resist the movement of, rather the cycle of the word of God. It is spirit. It has got life. It moves very quick, very sharp. Let's look at Ezekiel 47 verse 8. Then he said to me, these waters issue out toward the east country and go down into the desert and go into the sea, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters shall be healed. Verse 11. But the swamp places thereof and the marshes thereof shall not be healed. They shall be given to salt. So this water, as it was seen by Ezekiel in chapter 47 verse 8 and 11, it comes from the temple. It comes from the house of God, then flows into rivers. We won't talk about its banks, how the its bank looks like, but this water is channeled into the sea where it has to be healed. But if you don't channel the word of God into the sea, it goes into the swamps where water collects and is stagnant. It doesn't flow. So that water is no longer clean. That water is not healed. So same applies to the word of God. When you resist, when you derail, when you discontinue the flow, the cycle of the word of God, it won't get healed. then you have discontinued the cycle of the Word of God. Let's look at Revelations 15 verse 2. And I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire. And then that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of God. So where we are reading here, the prophet, John the prophet, right as he sees, he says, I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire. So the word of God, when it comes from God's mouth, it goes into the temple, it goes into our system, it is channeled through our system into the sea where it gets healed. It's a glass-like sea mingled with fire. It's water. It's mingled with fire. It's not a mere water. It is a glass. Remember, it comes from the mouth of God. So it is that kind of water that flows into the sea through the rivers, then get healed, then return back to God. As we heard from Isaiah, that the word of God will only return to him when it has accomplished its assignment. So that's how the word of God cycles. So it's actually water mingled with fire. Let's look at John 12 verse 48. He that rejects me does not receive my words, has one that judges him. The word that I have spoken, the same shall judge him in the last day. So when the word of God comes from God's mouth, as we said, it flows into the temple, into the sanctuary, into our bodies, then flows in through our rivers, our bones and marrows, our joints, our intents of heart, then goes back into the sea. But if you resist the word of God, it collects into the swamps, where it will never be healed, where it will never return back to God. So already you have something that will judge you, that you resisted, that you derailed, that you discontinued the word of God from completing its cycle. Therefore, you have something that will judge you at the last day. So nobody will judge you. Only the word that proceeded from God's mouth will be your judge on the last day. Let's look at Luke 8 verse 5. A sower went out to sow his seed, and as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and it was trodden down, and the fowls of the air devoured it. Verse 6. And some fell upon a rock, and as soon as it was sprung up, it withered away, because it lacked moisture. So this water that comes from the mouth of God, this water that is mingled with fire, the word of God, when it proceeds, it only comes to us to give moisture so that the seed in us can grow, can produce. So if you resist, you are killing the seed of God. So you have something that will judge you at the last day, that great day when Jesus Christ will come to judge the living and the dead. It will be the word that judges you, because already you derailed the cycle, you derailed the movement of the word of God. You discontinued the flow. So you have something that will judge you